So welcome back to UserFlows Podcast, everybody. Today I'm joined by Caryn Gallis, an old colleague and friend, and really excited for her to share her story. And we're going to talk about design sprints, teaching UX design, and a lot of other stuff, and her new role. So welcome, Caryn. And if you don't mind, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself that we might not learn on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, so actually, I think one of your former interview people. I also have a background in industrial design, and I designed children's toys for a while, which was my gateway drug to UX. And from that, I worked in consulting for a while, and a lot of different companies, a lot of different industries all over New Jersey, New York area. And then from that, I really got more into financial services and I made my way over to Prudential about 5 years ago.
Okay, wow.
And I was actually in that first interview with my boss, John Consigli, that I mentioned, hey, have you done design sprints? This is what they are. I really want to do them. And I was hired, and about a month or two later, we were in our first design sprint and sticky notes everywhere in this tiny little room. And it was really magical, really, really awesome that we got in there at that time and got in design sprints happening.
Right on. And so I think the last time we spoke, we had just kind of been kicked out of the offices.
Yeah.
And we were now fully remote. I hear, a big congratulations is in order. You have a whole new role.
Yeah.
And that's kind of based off of, what the work you started with design sprints at Prudential, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that first sprint really showed the power of sprints. And I kind of did a little bit of a roadshow of like, hey, this is what we did. This is how we did it. Design sprints can work here. This is why. Time boxing, a decider, real outcomes, testing, putting in front of users, really things that we just hadn't done. That area at that time, I was just in group insurance. So it was, your workplace benefits, really just group insurance. I don't think we had merged into workplace solutions. So not even the retirement side of that yet. And really focused on getting people on their disability and tracking and choosing their benefits and things like that. And that roadshow led to creating, hey, more people want to do design sprints. Okay, I can help you. I can run them. And that's like, oh, wait, there's not enough of me. We need more trainers. So I created a design sprint training program, which I think was your first job. Like you had started and you weren't really doing very much that first week. And we were like, hey, you want to help create some assets, which was really fun. So Proof Foodie was
that's right, Proof Foodie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which the irony of that is that it would have still worked in the pandemic of like having a food service app, or now like probably be better than cafeterias. And so that led to 2019, and I did 1 to 2 training sessions a month, including one with Evan in Ireland. So we went over there in November, right before the world shut down. And in that year, I trained about 500 people throughout the company. So a lot of people using sprints in different ways, teaching people when not to use sprints, which is just as important as when to use sprints. I never sugarcoated that it's a magical pill. It's a tool in the toolbox. You don't use a hammer for a screwdriver. So really teaching people when to do it, how to do it. We did some with some BRGs, which are diversity groups, which were really impactful. Those were really great design sprints. And so creating that design sprint program, my last design sprint was March 5th, 2020, to a packed house of like some senior leaders even, and which was great to get that. Last one was really impactful. We made a lot of connections with different areas and different people, but that was our last one in person. So then when we became remote, I had to create a way to pivot. And how do we run design sprints? How do we train people? How do we do this? And so Miro and Mural were really great tools. I mostly use Miro, Miro. There's some really great templates in there for that. And then to train new people, I created a design sprint training program. We have a tool called Degreed, which is basically like people can create curated content called pathways. And so I created my own pathway. And it's nice because when you do in-person training, you're the one giving it over and it's just me talking or whoever's facilitating with me. With this, I can have lots of different content coming in, lots of different videos. I can have audio. I can cater to different types of learners. So it's like I'm walking along people with that program. And at the end of the program, we do an in-person virtual mini design sprint. So people get to experience the design sprint, but it's much smaller. And then hopefully they can then conduct one on their own. It's also nice doing it virtually. You have a lot more metrics than doing it in person. I can see how long people take. I can see what people like. I can see what people don't like. I can do a survey. At the end of every unit, I did surveys. So I was able to adjust and keep going forward, but you don't really have that in person. So there are benefits of being in person. There's benefits of being digital. Same with running design sprints remotely now. You don't have to worry about assets. You don't have to worry about all those drawings up on the wall. Everybody has access to it in this digital format. It doesn't matter where you're located. We can work asynchronously. We can work synchronously. We can work collaboratively. It allows for a lot more. So what we'll do when we get back in the office, I don't know. We'll have to see. Only time will tell with that.
Yeah. That's very cool. And I think I did my last design sprint at Prudential right around that time. I think in April of last year. And that was the first remote one. And that was interesting. We used Envision Freehand, which was great because we were going to use Miro, but like at the last minute, we realized we couldn't get access to everybody. So it was like a quick kind of scramble.
That,
what do we use?
That's actually something that thankfully Evan, you already interviewed Evan. He solved that problem for us. So we're able to do this a lot quicker and figuring out how to, work faster. Get people trained up. We're actually creating like a best practices way of making sure people use Miro. And we like live in Miro. I use it for everything now. Just that big canvas is just so fun.
Yeah, no, I love them. And I think it almost, it makes it a little bit easier, I think, and less intimidating for a lot of people because they can they get how to draw a box and a line on the computer, but standing up in front of everybody in a room and drawing on a whiteboard can be a little bit intimidating for some, especially those who don't do that every day. Like a lot of the developers and QA folks and business folks. So I think the digital whiteboards are fantastic.
Yeah, they always have the best ideas though. When you get a pencil in their hand, it's just really empowering.
Yeah, and that's why getting everybody in the room. I always find the sales people, people who spend like all the time with the clients and customers, they're always the best people to have in the room. I love that.
Yeah, when we redesigned the employer facing HR manager for our employer portal, now we call it benefits site something. I can't remember what we ended up calling it, but we had a cross collaborative team where we had salespeople and they were so impactful for that. It was just amazing.
Oh, very cool. So this might be a little bit over the heads of some. So if we could go back to the basics and just talk, what are design sprints? How do you use them? And
I think I have my book somewhere here. Nope, I think it's still, we just closed our office in Roseland. So I brought home all my design sprint books and all my other design books. But I think it's still packed up. So design sprints, it's a formula. It was created by Jake Knapp, who is a former Google venture, a Googler. And he went into all these different companies and saw that they all had the same problems. They had challenges of getting people in the same room, getting alignment, making decisions quickly, not circling around, getting things in front of people. And so his formula, it's a methodology. Originally it was 5 days. We kind of do between 3 and 4 days, depending on the size of the project and problem area, really, where you go through the whole design thinking process in a very time-boxed manner. Each section builds upon the next section, and everybody who is impactful is in the room. So you only have 6 to 8 people with a decider. The decider makes it, and you have a facilitator. So they're keeping you on board. They're the conductor of that train to make sure that you get to the destination. And the destination is at the end of the week, you have a testable solution to put in front of real users. And for this, it could be something that's, digital and a product. It could be a brochure. It could be an email campaign. It could be a strategy. It really could be anything, as long as you have a user and something to test, and then you put that in front of people. And I really think that's the end. We've had some design sprints where and there's also this concept of like winners and maybe laters, where maybe they weren't winners of design sprints, but like you still learn, but unless you get it in front of somebody, you're not getting true learning. You really need to end the design sprint with getting testable solution of some sort. And again, it could be a lot of different ways. And he even talks in the book about, maybe it's a service and you could have a roll call and test it out. There's different ways. If it's a physical product, you could physically mock it up, which is funny because with industrial design, we never really did anything like that because this probably didn't exist when I was doing industrial design. But that's a great idea of like starting the week with a problem and ending with a solution.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so to a young designer who's just getting started, what would be the importance of learning how to facilitate something like a design sprint be to them?
Yeah, so I actually teach at Caryn University, like a intro to web class, and I really emphasize with them like beginning leadership skills, being able to talk in front of a group of people, being able to lead them, expressing your ideas, whether you're on a team on a design sprint as a designer or as a facilitator, because you could play either role, hopefully not both. That was a learning. You can't do both. Yeah. You need to be able to express yourself, be able to stand up and talk. Before my school shut down and we were in person, I always made sure that people gave presentations and were able to express their ideas. It's very important, no matter what your role is. I think also that idea of your idea is not always right, and you really need to experiment and try again and collaborate and show people your design. I like that your first idea is not always your best idea. Typically the better design sprints are when you do one sprint and then do a follow-up sprint to improve on it. The chances of you like knocking it out of the park the first time are like slim. And there's always going to be something that you can improve, always.
Nice. Yeah, that's I think one of the best things for me, and the biggest impact that learning how to facilitate design sprints has had on me, is that I don't only have to use the skills during a design sprint. Like I bring them into my everyday. So if we're sitting around, we're going back and forth or around in circles on a problem, I'll bring in some of the exercises from the design sprint, like crazy eights or the sketching solutions, and just help move things along. And I think it's helped me and my team, kind of get to solutions quicker. Which is extremely helpful. So you had mentioned something in the beginning when you were talking about the best and the wrong times to run a design sprint. Can you tell us a bit about like when's a great time to run one, when's maybe not the right time?
Let's start with not the right time. So not the right time is you don't have a decider. I definitely ran a few sprints where the decider had a proxy and the decider didn't actually see eye to eye. It wasn't, the decider should have been there. And it was just a flop. And it's just such a, you're getting people in a room for a week. That's a lot of valuable time. That's a lot of team morale. That's why these are great tools for building culture, for getting teams to work together. But when a decider's not in the room and like says, I don't like any of these concepts, like that was terrible. That's not a great experience for anybody. So the decider has to be in the room. Otherwise it's not a design sprint. Sometimes teams will run a design sprint if the project is way too big and maybe you should break it down. It should be like multiple design sprints, or the project's way too small. And maybe it should be a different type of session. It could be a working session. It could be, there's other tools in Toolbox. There's something called Design Studio, which is like a rapid drawing exercise. There's Lightning Decision Jam, which is another AJ and Smart workshopping tool. That's another book that I think I have in a box behind me. Yeah, I still
Yeah.
have to check. So knowing when to use that tool is really appropriate. And then if you have like 15 people, okay, so it's again, maybe it's a different type of workshop, but it's not a design sprint. Use it when it's appropriate. So a good time to start a design sprint. If you're stuck, like you were talking before, like you're just spinning your wheels with a project. Maybe it's like, hey, maybe we should pause, see if this is a design sprint, see if that's a new way of invigorating different ideas. If you're just kicking a project off, that's a great time to do a design sprint. Those are my best two times of like, this is not working, let's do a design sprint, or like, this is a brand new project, let's kick it off with a design sprint.
Right on. And so most of the design sprints that you do you kind of have a specific problem that you're trying to solve, or is it a little more open-ended where you're kind of looking to find the right problem to tackle?
If you're looking to find the right problem to tackle, I would probably do a lightning decision jam, because that'll give you a better breath. And those are also shorter. Those are like under 2 hours and can involve more people. So it's a great time for that exploratory work. The lightning decision jam, the recommendation could be, hey, now we have an idea for design sprint. Let's choose those, 6 to 8 people and pick a week and just do it.
Right on. And so, oh, sorry. So didn't mean to cut you off there. But you mentioned something really interesting there, which was the aspect of time and how long these can take. And so to businesses, like a 5-day design sprint, getting 7 to 8 high level people in the room, especially when you talk about the deciders and those folks, that becomes really expensive. How do you go about selling the idea of design sprints if it's a new idea in your organization?
Right. Have you ever looked at the cost of bad design?
That's a good one.
Yeah, no, but it's true. You can take months and months and months to go back and forth and this and that. But when you have that decider in the room, especially if you coach the decider and like, this is what you're going to need to do, and they have clear expectations of their role, which is very important. I would meet with deciders like a week or two and tell them, hey, you're going to be asked to make decisions. You're going to be time boxed. This is what's expected of you. You can move very quickly. Very, very quickly. And it would take months and months of people being like 10% on a project or 20%, like get everybody in a room, jam on it and get in front of customers. You're going to know what to do next. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah, fantastic. And so now you've done one design sprint, you've proven to everybody that this is awesome. Could you maybe talk a little bit about how the full process you kind of took to scale design sprints at Prudential? Because I know it was kind of like a snowball effect. Like you did one, you showed it around, then you started doing more, and everybody got interested. If you
that's exactly what it was. It was like a snowball, grassroots. I really had great leadership who encouraged it. A lot of it was the timing was right. Maybe I wasn't in the customer office, which was where previously more of the design was happening. I was in like a separate group, which is funny because now we're all together. So I didn't have as many, it was just like a little bit easier for me to kind of get in front of people, I guess. And then we just started scaling it up. Just having that proof that it worked really helped it get going. And then realizing I can't do it myself and creating that training program that you and Brian helped me with to get that going really made a big difference. We also created a design sprint wiki. So it was a place to house all the documents. So people didn't have to like recreate the wheel. I had an email template. I have an agenda template. Like they have all the assets they need. They could just download and get going. Like people didn't even need to take the course. I could coach them too. They could read the book. There's so much content now that there wasn't 5 years ago. Like YouTube is a plethora of videos that you can watch and learn, and that just didn't exist.
Yeah, right on. And that's kind of how it worked for me. Was I read the book when you and Brian introduced me to design sprints on that project for kind of creating that training guide. And then I got to go through the training with you, which was awesome. And then I think on my first design sprint, my boss at the time had offered to co-facilitate it since she
Yeah.
was very used to doing these. So she offered that. And that was, I feel like, the perfect introduction for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the kind of full weight of it on my shoulders, and I, had somebody to learn from and watch and grow. But it was a fantastic experience for me, and I loved it. I'm bringing it to the company I'm at now. We just had our first remote design sprint, and
That's
it was a
awesome.
huge success. I feel like the one problem I run into is now that we've done a design sprint, we've kind of identified 1,000 other things we want to tackle. And so I guess a lightning decision jam
Yeah.
might be the next
Yeah,
best decision.
exactly. Put it in the backlog. But yeah.
Yeah.
But there's really a whole community of design sprinters. I've been able to reach out to other people in other companies and kind of create connections. I think Google does like a design sprint conference. It's never, I think at one point it was invitation only. Then I think it was last time was on when I was on maternity leave. Like I've watched some of the recordings from it, but it's definitely like becoming like more of a community, even outside of your individual companies, and there's more people to like learn from and read articles and watch videos and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about, your teaching job now at Kane. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And
That actually, I was put in touch with Kane through a mutual friend who used to teach there. He was at Prudential for a bit, and then this is why you always, if I have advice for any kind of student, it's keep your network, always be in touch with people. The design world's not huge, and it's just, you need to be able to bounce ideas off of friends or have ideas bounced off of you. It's good to like be able to give feedback and get feedback. And so this one friend, he was at Prudential for a bit. I helped him get a job somewhere else. He referred me to Kane for teaching. Like it's just, good karma comes around, goes around kind of thing. So
yeah.
he put me in touch with them, and that's kind of where I've been. So I teach 1 night a week, which is great for balancing Prudential. I always learn things from the students that I can bring back to my day job, and there's been times where my day job has had students apply. I just had a student email me today about applying for a job, so that's great that hopefully I can help recruit some really good talent to bring it back into our organization. And when the world shut down, it turned to a remote class, which with tools like we use a lot of Google Classroom and all the Google tools, and being able to make comments in people's things. And then also Envision is free for students. So we use that. And then I've introduced the students to usertesting.com. That also has a university program, and my students are able to do remote test usability testing on there, which is awesome to be able to expose them to not just usability testing, but like, this is an actual tool that you might use in your future job. So like, I really wanted them to have exposure to that. And they also do in-person testing, so things like that. So I really treat them like, hey, you're working for a client, this is what they want, and they write their own design brief, and they do their research, and they do wireframes, they go through the whole design process. Some students have complicated times, and their portfolio, the end presentation is really a piece for their portfolio. And they can really tell the story of how they went from concept to finished product. I'd love to teach design sprints in there. It's just not possible in the short amount of time. So, yeah.
Is that are those students working towards like a 4-year degree, or is that Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Some of there's not a true UX degree. Some of them are graphic design students. Some of them are advertising students, but they're all in the Michael Graves School of Design.
Okay, great. And I feel like learning, the full design thinking process is great for any designer, no matter what kind of field you're going into, even if it's advertising or those things. I think it just makes you a better all-around designer.
Absolutely.
And I feel that's one of the things I missed out. I started off as a graphic designer. It was that yeah, like the only thing that really mattered to me most of the time was like what I felt about this design,
Yeah,
not,
no,
what it means to the people who are going to be using it, interacting with it, and those things. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I'm glad you're getting to do that. That's really exciting. Do you feel like teaching has changed, like your career in any way?
absolutely. So my role now, where I bring culture and training to our experienced design team, really looking for themes that are happening. I'm always reading, I'm always listening to podcasts like yours and many others that I can bring to either work or school or to both. Seeing how the workplace is changing, just physically, like being remote or not remote, we'll have to
Mhm.
see how that goes. Yeah, no, it definitely, they pair well together. And
Yeah,
I definitely learned a lot. I learned just as much as the students each semester. Each semester I update the way I teach, the way I do homework, the way I do everything, which has been really great for me to learn and constantly learn from the students.
yeah, fantastic. And so you mentioned something about culture and training. So I guess
Oh yeah.
your official role is
Yeah,
director, experience design, culture, and training. Those are
yeah,
lots of
yeah. Lots of
interesting
stuff
words
over
thrown
there.
together.
Yes, lots of, so our wider team is experience design, and then my role is culture and training. So with the culture aspect, we've been leading coffee chats to really bond people together. I don't think
Mhm.
people understand just how much like knowing who you're working with helps create like an emotional safety, psychological safety, ability to collaborate and communicate. You really need to be able to know who you're working with, and those higher bonded teams have better outputs.
Mhm.
And so with that, we're doing a lot of different monthly happy hours, lots of little interactions with people. And then with the training side, I worked in creating, right now I'm creating another pathway for onboarding training. I've worked with, we're scaling up Agile. So teaching designers Agile,
Mhm.
teaching Agile teams how to work with designers. So two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
uh, Coaching different people, continuing with the design sprint training program, pairing people when they come to me, hey, I'm needing to learn this, finding
Yeah,
buddies for
I'm
them to
not
work
quite sure.
with,
I will tell you, you
anything
did
that's
reference
needed
a
in that
book that I love,
regard,
which
which
was
is great. And it says a
"What
lot
Color
about
Is Your
Prudential,
Parachute?"
that they're really putting a lot of emphasis on design and our customer obsession and really growing that skill set, which maybe you started to see the inklings of, and it's really coming to fruition now, which is nice. It's been a great journey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And no, and I did see a lot of that. And I met a lot of fantastic people, and that's why I've had a lot of people from Prudential on this show, is because there's a lot of really interesting perspectives and backgrounds, and just really all around great people. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, so, any advice for a designer who's looking to either get started in the field or transfer from some other field to the field of UX design?
Yeah.
Um, how would you go about that? Do you recommend the 4-year degree, the boot camp, anything in particular?
Yeah. So it depends where you're coming from and what your background is. With my background in design, I actually did a general assembly course, but mostly because I thought that I was going to become a developer at one point. So I was in a developer course and I
Okay.
was like, no, I like people. And I went into the UX one, and I actually got a job before the course even finished. So, it helped solidify that my 4-year design background taught me a lot of what I needed to become a UX designer. Maybe we called things slightly different or
Mhm.
had different ways of approaching, but it was really, the core was the same. So that's one. So it depends on what your background is, which direction you want to go. It really depends. So I wouldn't necessarily say that boot camps are bad, and I wouldn't say that a 4-year degree is bad. It depends on where you're coming from and what you need, what skill sets you need to learn and improve. No matter what, you need to get some experience, whether that's like, hey, my local pizza store needs their website redone, volunteer to do that. Your cousin needs something done, volunteer to do that. At a certain point, you need to stop volunteering and start charging. I don't say
Mhm.
that you should work for free forever, but you do need to create a portfolio, and however you need to create that portfolio, people need to be able to see your work. I when I'm looking at portfolios for people that we're hiring, I want to see your thought process. I don't want to see that razzle dazzle picture at the end. And that's how I teach too, is like, I want to see your thought process. How did you get through this? And it's okay if you get lost. It's okay if you fail. How did you recover from that? How did you learn from that? How did you move forward from that? And that's the story. And that's what we want to see in our designers and in our students and learning. So definitely working on your portfolio is key. But in that, don't do it in a silo. Reach out to designers. I love when people connect with me on LinkedIn. Now there's this new thing, ADP lists. I think it started out of the pandemic. They're amazing. That's unbelievable. They're doing such great work. People should continue to get on that. I wish that had been around when I was a young designer. I wish that would have been amazing. But I did it for myself. I reached out to people on LinkedIn. When you're a junior designer, when you're a student, people are very willing to talk to you and be curious about what they do. Ask questions. Always have questions ready for them. How did you get to where you're going? How did you do that? What pathway did you make? Is there anyone you can connect me with? That's a great question. So definitely reach out to people, continue your network, be gracious, thank people. I've helped people, get jobs. And people love that. It feels good. I want people to get jobs, and people want to get good talent. So it works for everybody. So definitely continue to build your network, build your portfolio, and you're not alone. Like, you should definitely be reaching out, talking to people. And it's hard. It's hard when you're applying for those jobs as a junior designer. I totally get that. And I hope that other more senior designers don't forget that journey. And don't forget that. And they reach back and pull junior people with them, because it's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, part of the reason why I started this podcast. And the reason why I started doing mentoring with springboard.com is
cool.
for those exact reasons. But I feel like when it comes to building company culture too, like hiring junior designers, training them in the way that you work and the way that you feel design should be done is a great part of building culture. I feel like it's really becomes difficult to hire culture in a way where you're going out and only hiring senior people. It can kind of get into a little bit of a trap where people are kind of stuck in their ways and not really willing to, be part of that big team effort.
Yeah, no, it's true. We're gonna, a little plug. We don't have interns this year, but next year we hope to have interns. So. Oh,
fantastic. Yeah, I love that intern program. And we had some great ones that came through when I was at Prudential.
Yep.
Shihab being one of them. He will actually, he'll be on the show soon as well, because he's done some really interesting stuff. And I loved every time they came through, they always had the best questions. And and I've talked to a few of them, and they're always so just intrigued by what we do and so ready to try anything and do anything and just, get their hands dirty. It was fantastic to see. But so where do you go for inspiration now? It's you're not, a junior designer just getting started. You're kind of on that senior level now. So like, where do you go to get inspired and learn more?
I listen to a lot of podcasts, actually, and a wide range of topics. IDEO has a great podcast. I like to listen to things outside of design too, like Brené Brown's podcast, things like that, where it's like it verges on things that I'm dealing with or talking about at work, but it's not from a designer. So I like either those like hardcore design topics or going for more the business or psychological aspects. So that's one, and it's nice to be able to do that. I can, do while I'm playing with my kids, folding laundry, whatever. And that's one thing I encourage at work or even with the students is continuous learning. Like, you can be learning at any time. And I love that there's so many different mediums that you can learn from now. I love looking on YouTube, AG and Smart. I love their channel. So if you want to watch like a video, and Instagram, I know that's crazy, but I wanted to meet my students where they are. So I actually have a series of and I keep adding to it right now. I think I'm up to like 15 people you should follow on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter, and following those designers. And I definitely could do more of this, but being part of that conversation, you can jump in and join that conversation. You can get involved if you want to, which is really nice. So those are probably my main ways. I read a lot. You can see my books. That's another way I get inspiration. And then just being with my team, like really talking to them. We do surveys a lot, hearing our feedback, being very goal orientated with that. Evan and I actually sat down today and went through our mid-year goals. Like, what have we done? Wow, we've done a really lot. Oh, what do we have left to do? Oh, wow, we have a lot left to do, which is great because we're only halfway here. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. And so what's next on the horizon for you?
Oh, next, we are in the middle of hopefully making a proposal for an experience design conference for the fall, which will be super exciting. We have some proposals out for speakers, so hopefully we'll make a conference. No clue what it's going to be. We're kind of running it as an experiment. I think it'll be good. That's one thing that's a big thing on my horizon. And then a lot of other training programs I'm going to be launching soon. So that's been exciting.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And so where can people go to get in touch with you, or how should they get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's always good. I'm pretty good about responding to messages. You can reach out to me on there. That's usually a good place. I'm not active really anywhere else in social media world. A follower, which is fair. So yeah, LinkedIn's a great place.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm the same way. Just trying to get used to sharing on social media. I've been a follower for a long time, but now trying to get my ideas out there and contribute a little bit. It's difficult.
Yeah, no, this podcast is great, and thank you for making an impact. I'm going to add you to my slides. So.
Oh, appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on, Caryn. It's great to catch up again and see. It's been a while, so really appreciate you being here, and I can't thank you enough.
No problem. Thank you so much.